Morena na mihi nui ko Andrew Bailey ahau no Wanganui ahau. Hey, well, first of all, it's great to be with you. I see lots of people I know. I just acknowledge my former colleague Chris Farfoy in the corner there. There's plenty of people from the budget services sector I see here. Also some bankers and obviously other people here. So lovely to be with you today. I just want to acknowledge the mihi whakatoa from our good friends at Ngāti Whātua Ōraki. And also, I've got to go at 9:30. Interesting you were talking about yourself and how special you were, Michelle. I've got to go and meet some more extraordinary people at Government House. I've got to leave at 9:30 because they're also getting a royal honour today. So, extraordinary people like you, Michelle. Hey, so first of all, congratulations. Great to be here with you at this National Strategy Partners Conference, and great to be in this room, Hanua room, because I was formerly the MP for Hanua. I'm now the MP for Port Waikato, so obviously it has a great deal of significance for me. First of all, I want to thank Jane and her team, but Jane particularly, for inviting me today. I just want to acknowledge the work of the Retirement Commission. I do keep in contact with the Retirement Commission quite a bit, and others in the room who have contributed to the ongoing implementation of the National Strategy for Financial Capability. There's lots of work that has gone on, and I do recognise that. I know over the next day and a half you're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about strategy as well as discussing what future work is needed, and I look forward to seeing the refreshed edition. Jane was just mentioning it before to me on the briefing that the Retirement Commission is going to release soon. Today I wanted to share some thoughts with you about what we're thinking about, and first of all I want to talk about the importance of financial capability, which I know is very important to all of you. It's crucial that Kiwis are well informed when making financial decisions for themselves and their families. The current economic climate and cost of living crisis makes it even more important for Kiwis to understand money and to have the tactics to save for a rainy day. As we all know, these last few years have been financially difficult for many New Zealanders. A 2024 survey of the Retirement Commission found that 55% of participants were financially stressed and just under 50% reported feeling that they were financially sinking or treading water. A key focus of this government is making sure young people are financially literate and confident making well-informed decisions from a young age. Financial capability is a long game, and beginning as early as possible is the best gift we can give our young people. Money is not you cannot buy happiness with money, but it does give people freedom, agency and choice. I'm pleased to see the ongoing work of the Retirement Commission to support young people through the Sorted in Schools program, which is now delivered to 70% of our schools in Kura. The time is right to take a more coordinated approach to the rollout of financial education, which I know the Retirement Commission is keen to support. We've campaigned on making financial literacy more widely available in schools, and this is something I intend to deliver on. Speaking to teachers and providers, I've come to understand how important it is that we provide educators with the right teaching tools. For many teachers, the prospect of being responsible for counselling young people about developing good money habits is a daunting task. Some teachers may lack confidence in the area themselves. Several teachers have emphasised the value of easy-to-use, age-appropriate online teaching modules which enable a teacher to take students through a content in a structured, guided way. This is an area that I'll be collaborating with Minister Erica Stanford in a role as Minister of Education. I think there's wonderful potential to work with exciting young people who can act as ambassadors and help demystifying money and make the subject interesting for our younger generation. People like the two principals behind Girls Who Invest who I've met are wonderful examples of where that's taking place. And also I've met a number of other providers who are already providing that type of service to teachers around New Zealand. I'm conscious that against the backdrop of social media, 24/7 online shopping and buy now, pay later platforms, we have a work cut out for us. Young people are constantly bombarded with the messages of spend, 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 when really we want to engineer a cultural shift towards save, invest and grow. In essence, saving for our future. Supporting financial literacy doesn't stop when you leave school. As a former business owner, I was absolutely staggered when employees and members of my staff used to come up to me and ask for money, and when I started talking to them, I realised how little they didn't understand about money matters. And that many of them were highly educated people. This is deeply concerning on an individual level, but also at a national cultural level. We know that one of the big challenges for businesses in New Zealand is access to capital. I'm also keen to see more money invested in our productive part of our economy and see Kiwis invest in great New Zealand-owned businesses, which brings me to KiwiSaver. As part of my efforts to reform the wider financial landscape, I'm looking at ways to encourage KiwiSaver funds to be used to invest in great New Zealand businesses. At the moment, too much is invested offshore in passive international funds, generating little return on a broad economic scale for our own economy. KiwiSaver is a fantastic initiative and it's come a long way in the last 17 years. It's now one of the most common ways for New Zealanders to save for their old age. Despite this, many people are not contributing enough to be financially comfortable in retirement. By 2050, the number of over 65-year-olds will have doubled. The latest data from the Retirement Commissioner shows that the average balance is about 32,000, with 38% of people with 10,000 or less in their account. Worse still is the number of people who have simply not joined the scheme. That's probably as bad as anything. And we need to make sure that we get these people enrolled in KiwiSaver. Many of you would have seen the headlines earlier this year of a record number of people making withdrawals from their KiwiSaver due to financial hardship. While this is understandable and better than the alternative of getting into unmanageable levels of debt, it is also highly concerning. It's very hard to get ahead without maximising the benefits of compounding returns, both at an individual level and as a society. In 2023 financial year, KiwiSaver balances were not far from 100 billion in New Zealand. Meanwhile, the total New Zealand superannuation assets are about 3.7 trillion compared to our 100 billion at the same time at the end of December last year. I plan to turn my mind to the ongoing debate about whether the KiwiSaver contribution rates are appropriate. There is a case for increasing the employment contribution rate from 3%, but difficult in a cost of living crisis. This is something I'm willing to seek feedback on more and from people like yourselves, as well as from industry and my ministerial colleagues. I also plan to look at contribution rates and whether it's appropriate for people under 18-year-olds to be eligible for compulsory employer contributions, and similarly for over 65s, especially as we are living longer and working longer too. It's very important that we reflect what the demographic trends are happening in New Zealand. I'm very conscious also about the gender gap when it comes to KiwiSaver and the fact that women who go on maternal leave miss out on payments during their time. And as a result, we all know that women's KiwiSaver balances on average are less than men. This is unequal, and we shouldn't be unfairly punishing women for having children. It's something we actually want to support. I have 3 children myself, but the reality is it's becoming harder, more expensive, and less appealing for many to have families. I'm also aware from my electorate work as an MP that there is an issue with the total remuneration packages. I've spoken to many people in my electorate office, and Chris would have no doubt had the same, where young people, and particularly hairdressers as an example, young women who've come into my office want to contribute to KiwiSaver, but their employers said to them that if you want them to contribute, that it will come out of their total remuneration. And that, of course, stops them from entering KiwiSaver at the outset. That is wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. And what we're doing is de-incentivising young people from engaging in KiwiSaver. If young people don't sign up to KiwiSaver with their first job, we miss that crucial window of opportunity. And there's very good stats around how long it takes them to re-engage in KiwiSaver. I've asked the Retirement Commissioner to continue to work on the scheme in general, and we've got a couple of areas that we're working together with Jane, and I'm looking forward to comments and further information that will help in terms of how we look at stewardship of the KiwiSaver scheme. I want to make sure that KiwiSaver is fit for purpose and welcome your insights as I progress this future work. Also, I'm also ensuring that Kiwis are prepared for a future requires a financial system that empowers them to take ownership of their financial futures. A key priority of mine is to progress a package of reforms to streamline financial services in New Zealand. You may be aware that I've recently announced changes to the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act, typically known as the CCCFA, which will make it easier for people to get finance when they need it. We know that the affordability regulations, which we revoked, will have been having some really harmful unintended consequences and actually driving people to borrow from groups at high rates of interest when they ought not to. We also know the rules were particularly tough on business owners and sole traders. At the same time, very importantly as part of that announcement, I've also announced that we're going to strengthen access to financial dispute schemes, because I want to make sure those people who have been subject to poor lending practices have a more viable and accessible route to getting their disputes resolved. I must emphasise that I want to ensure consumers can have access to financial products and services when they need it, while reducing unnecessary compliance costs. Later this month, I'll begin consultation on further reforms, and we'll be making further announcements later in the year. And I encourage you, and I know people in the room here will be involved in that consultation process. I'm also aware you're going to hear about open banking this afternoon from someone from Payments New Zealand. Didn't know that was happening, but just to make you aware, I am progressing the Consumer Data Rights Bill. I'm in the final stages of seeking approval, and subject to that being approved, expectation to put that in the House very, very shortly. It is important that we get open banking, but not only open banking and financial services, but also what it means for electricity and telecommunication packages, that consumers can look at other competitive products. So the Consumer Data Rights Bill is a framework, an overarching framework. We've got the Commerce Commission, which I also look after, working on what's called the APIs, the protocols for how you transfer information. And at the same time, we've got DIA looking at digital identity. So that's an important part, and that'll be an announcement I'll be making in due course, but it's something that we're progressing at speed. But in closing, I'd like to re-emphasise how important it is that we do raise financial capability of New Zealanders so that they're well equipped to navigate economic challenges both now and in the future. I'm confident that the vision that the strategy sets out will make genuine strides in increasing financial capability of everyday New Zealanders. We all have a part to play in this journey, and I look forward to having ongoing constructive dialogue today and over the course of the year. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Ngā mihi, Andrew. We do have time for a couple of questions. The first one is, are you considering work to better regulate buy now, pay later? Multiple unaffordable loans are endlessly presenting at financial mentors' offices.
Well, with good news, yes, the new regulations are going to come into force, I think it's October, which will make it buy now, pay later schemes are subject to affordability tests. So that's one of the crucial reforms. It's already in training, it's already in place, it's just a matter of when it comes into place, and that's already locked and loaded.
Fantastic. Why isn't financial education compulsory in schools rather than just an option?
Well, the big issue is we've got a curriculum change. You're probably aware that we want to make sure that school kids learn the basics. It's a pretty good start. and it's also helpful if they turn up to school. Look, I've spoken to Erica, the Minister of Education, about it. Look, we think it's essential that it is part of the curriculum. She is obviously going through a process, so I can't say today that we're going to make it compulsory or not, but we both understand the importance of making sure that school children particularly, but it's not only that, as I tried to say, it's also in the workplace, do have access to good quality content so that they can look at it and actually be engaged in, and help our teachers help the children through that process.
Time for just one more question. As a budget service that missed out on receiving any funding, how does the government propose we continue to support... Sorry, it just moved.
Yeah.
How does the government propose we continue to support our people get better financial outcomes?
Yeah, look, I know there's a lot of budget advisors. I saw many of you when I walked in the room. Just the background, that funding was funding set up during COVID, so it was time-limited funding. And obviously the expiry time has come to a conclusion, right? And so that is why that money is disappearing. It's not that we have cut it. That's not the situation at all. We haven't cut it. It's simply the funding it was time limited when it was put in place. Now, obviously, we've got a few priorities at the moment, trying to balance the book. Louise Upston, I know some of you reached out to Louise Upston about it. Right now, obviously it is what it is, but I think it is a situation where hopefully many of you will continue to have those conversations with Louise Upston about the budget, but there are a few priorities right now financially, and I know you play a really important role, and I want to acknowledge what you do at the budget service level, but we're having to make other changes across all of government sector. I think hopefully next year we might be in a better position to look at a whole range of other things we can start to invest in. But it is literally, it's not a cut. We have not cut it. It's just that the funding has come to expiry.
Andrew, thank you so much. Round of applause for Andrew Bailey. Thank you.
Thank you very much.